For 15 years, I let the world believe I was a corpse rotting in a foreign grave. I returned not as a man, but as a phantom, only to witness my greatest treasure, my daughter, kneeling on the marble floor of my own home, scrubbing the boots of the woman who stole her life. But I wasn't there to weep. I was there to plant the first seeds of a fire that would reduce their gilded prison to ash. The rain over Boston wasn't falling. It was weeping, a cold, relentless downpour that turned the historic cobblestones of Beacon Hill into a river of reflected lantern light. It was a fitting baptism for a ghost. To the world, Conrad Elias Vance was a footnote in a financial scandal, a greedy tycoon who'd fled the country with ill-gotten gains before meeting a messy, anonymous end in the political jungles of West Africa. The obituaries had been brief. The estate, they believed, was long dissolved. They were wrong on every count. I stood in the shadow of a wrought-iron gate, the water streaming from the brim of my battered felt hat. My clothes were a thrift store collage, deliberately chosen to project the aura of a man broken by life, a vagrant seeking shelter from the storm. They itched against skin that had known finer things, but they were my armor, my camouflage. Because sewn into the frayed lining of this very coat was a fortune in uncut, conflict-free diamonds, the hard, brilliant core of my real legacy. My gaze was fixed on the mansion across the street. Number 17, a 5-story testament to Gilded Age opulence, built of russet brick and gleaming limestone. I had purchased it at auction 15 years ago, a final, extravagant promise to my wife, Eleanor, before my fateful trip. "A castle for our Lily," I'd whispered, kissing her forehead. Eleanor was gone now, lost to a swift cancer a year after my death, a tragedy I learned of only through a smuggled, year-old newspaper, but Lily should have been here. My heart was a frantic bird trapped in the cage of my ribs. She would be 34 now. The math was a constant, painful whisper in my mind. I imagined her opening that grand oak door. Would she have her mother's smile? Would there be a husband beside her, perhaps children clinging to her skirts? The fantasy was so vivid it hurt. But the house told a different story. The windows, though clean, had a sterile, museum-quality stillness. The grand top-floor balcony, where Eleanor and I had dreamed of sipping coffee, was bare. No lights shone with warm, familial chaos from the upper floors. All the illumination came from the blinding, cold chandeliers of the grand reception rooms on the first level. I crossed the street, each step a conscious effort to mimic the shuffle of a weary old man. The granite steps were slick. I climbed them, the phantom pain of old injuries, real ones, earned in an Angolan detention camp flaring in my knee. I reached for the heavy brass door knocker, shaped like a lion's head, but paused. My hand trembled. This wasn't just a door. It was the portal to a life stolen. Instead, I pressed the discreet electric bell. Its deep, resonant chime echoed inside, a sound I remembered. I waited, the rain plastering my trousers to my legs. The silence stretched, then broke. Not with footsteps, but with a voice shrill, imperious, and ice-cold. It sliced through the heavy door, instantly familiar and utterly repulsive. "You clumsy girl. Look what you've done. Do you have any idea what that vase cost? More than your life is worth, I assure you." It was Pamela, my sister-in-law, Eleanor's older sister. The woman I had entrusted with power of attorney, a decision that now tasted like arsenic. A softer, muffled voice responded, too quiet to make out words, but the tone was pure apology, pure fear. "Just clean it up, and be quick. The guests will be here soon, and I will not have this foyer smelling of your incompetence." Guests, so a performance was underway. The door didn't open. I rang again, longer this time. The shouting ceased. After a moment, I heard the tentative scrape of a bolt. The door swung inward a mere 6 inches, held by a security chain. The woman who peered out was a photograph left in the rain. The vibrant, rosy-cheeked girl of 20 I had left behind was gone. In her place was a figure of stark angles and shadows. She was painfully thin, swimming in a severe, charcoal gray maid's uniform that was faded at the cuffs and collar. Her ash-brown hair was pulled back in a tight, lifeless bun, but it was her hands that seized my breath. They gripped the edge of the door, red, raw, and cracked, with fresh scrapes across the knuckles. Servant's hands. Her eyes, though sunken and shadowed, were Eleanor's eyes. A warm, intelligent hazel I would have known in total darkness. My Lily. She looked at me, and in her gaze I saw no flicker of recognition. She saw a waterlogged, bearded old man in filthy clothes. "A problem. Can I help you, sir?" Her voice was raspy, as if from disuse or suppressed tears. I opened my mouth. "A lifetime of longing, Lily. It's me. It's Daddy." I'm home coalesced into a silent lump in my throat. I simply stared, drinking in the painful reality of her. Seeing my silence as confusion or deafness, her expression softened with a pity that was a knife to my soul. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered urgently, glancing back over her shoulder into the grand foyer. It's not a good night. If the mistress sees you." She bit her lip, a childhood habit I remembered. Then, moving with a furtive speed, she reached into the deep pocket of her apron. She pulled out a small, wrapped bundle of linen napkin. She thrust it through the gap in the door into my cold hands. "It's just some bread and cheese from the kitchen. It's all I have. Please, take it and go. Go to the shelter on Boylston Street. It's dry there." I looked down at the napkin in my hands. The fabric was coarse, cheap. Inside was a heel of crusty bread and a small wedge of hard cheddar. My daughter, the rightful heir to the Vance fortune, was bribing a beggar with pantry scraps to leave her own doorstep. The humiliation was a physical heat that flashed from my chest to my face, but it was instantly quenched by a glacial, clarifying rage. This was the reality. This was what Pamela had wrought. Before I could force a word out, the sharp click of heels on marble approached. "Lily, who are you talking to?" "I told you to deal with that glass." Pamela materialized behind my daughter. Time had been kind to her in the way it is to well-preserved artifacts. 65, but sliced, tightened, and polished to a glossy 50. She wore a velvet dressing gown that flowed like liquid bronze. A single, monstrous emerald pendant lay against her collarbone. Her eyes, a flinty gray, locked onto me through the crack in the door. Her face cycled through expressions, annoyance, scrutiny, and then a dawning, incredulous comprehension. There was no fear. No shock at seeing a man return from the dead. Her plump, surgically enhanced lips curled into a smile that held no warmth, only a vicious amusement. "Well, well," she purred, her voice dripping with a honeyed venom. "Look what the gutter coughed up, Conrad, my goodness. We had a memorial service. Did you not get the invitation?" She unlatched the security chain with a dismissive flick. The door swung open fully, revealing the opulent hell of my own foyer. $1 million crystal chandelier. Marble floor now marred by a dark wet patch and the glittering remains of a shattered Ming vase. Lily stood frozen, a statue of shame between us. "Cat got your tongue?" Pamela smirked, looking me up and down with undisguised contempt. "Or did they cut it out in whatever rat hole you escaped from? You look appropriate for a sewer rat." I found my voice, lowering and roughening it, leaning into the persona of the broken man. "Pamela, I came home." "Home?" She let out a short, brittle laugh. "This is not your home, Conrad. This is my home. You forfeited any claim to it when you decided to play international, fugitive, and leave your family to drown in the scandal you created." She stepped closer, invading the space, her perfume opulent and cloying filling my nostrils. I suppose even rats need a drain to crawl into. Come, let's not discuss our family business." On the doorstep, she turned and glided away, expecting obedience. I glanced at Lily. She was staring at the floor, her entire body rigid with a tension I could feel from 3 feet away. She thought she was in trouble for letting me in. I shuffled over the threshold, leaving puddles on the marble. The home smelled of lemon polish, expensive flowers, and underlying decay. Pamela led me not to a sitting room, but down a corridor to the massive, professional-grade kitchen. It was a space of stainless steel and cold granite, more a laboratory than a heart of a home. She perched on a stool at the central island, a queen holding court over her scullery. "Sit," she commanded, not to a chair, but to a lower stool meant for kitchen staff. I sat, playing my part, letting my shoulders slump. Lily hovered near the sink, nervously twisting a dishcloth in her ruined hands. "Let's be clear, Conrad," Pamela began, examining a flawlessly manicured nail. "You are a ghost. A legal non-entity? You were declared dead in absentia 7 years ago. Your assets, what pitiful remnants weren't seized by international authorities, were distributed to settle your considerable debts." "Debts?" I rasped. "Oh, don't play the fool. The lawsuits, the fines, the back taxes. When you vanished, the vultures descended. It was a bloodbath." She leaned forward, her eyes glinting. I, out of the goodness of my heart and for the memory of my dear sister, stepped in. I used my own resources to save this house from the auction block. I took in your daughter. She said the word as if referring to a stray, half-wild cat. I provided structure, discipline, and a way for her to atone for the shame of your name. I looked at Lily. "Is this true?" She wouldn't meet my eyes. Her voice was a threadbare whisper. "Aunt Pamela saved us. We had nothing. The police, the reporters, she protected me. I worked to help pay for my keep, to contribute." Every word sounded rote, beaten into her. "The medical bills alone are astronomical," Pamela sighed theatrically. My blood went cold. "Medical bills?" Lily finally looked up, a flash of fierce maternal fear in her eyes. "Leo, my son, he has a congenital heart condition. The treatments, the surgeries." Her voice broke. "Aunt Pamela covers what the insurance won't. I could never—" So this was the linchpin. This was the chain that bound her. Not just psychological manipulation, but the life of her child, my grandson, a boy whose existence was a thunderclap of joy and terror in my chest. "I see," I mumbled, bowing my head further. I have nothing. They took everything in Angola. I just wanted to see her." Pamela's smile was one of pure, unadulterated victory. She reached for a sleek leather clutch on the counter, pulled out a money clip, and peeled off 2 $100 bills. With a deliberate, slow motion, she let them flutter from her fingers to the floor at my feet. "There, for old time's sake, consider it a parting gift. A final severance." Her voice hardened. "Now, take your money and disappear. Again, if you show your face here, near Lily, or try to contact anyone, I will not be so charitable. I have friends in the district attorney's office who are very interested in the return of a certain fugitive. Do you understand, you pathetic ghost?" I stared at the money on the polished concrete. $200. The price of her victory lap. The final stamp on my defeat. With a show of effort that wasn't entirely feigned, my knees were old, and the damp had settled in. I slowly bent down. As I grasped the bills, I allowed my other hand to brush against the underside of the granite island. A tiny magnetic listening device, no larger than a shirt button, adhered to the cold stone. I stood, clutching the money like a lifeline. "Thank you," I whispered, the very words tasting of ash. "Lily," Pamela said without looking at her, "show this gentleman to the service entrance, and then come back and finish the floors. He's tracked mud everywhere." Lily nodded mutely and gestured for me to follow her down a narrow, plain hallway to a stout metal door. Once we were out of earshot, she grabbed my arm with surprising strength. Her touch was electric, the first real contact with my child in a decade and a half. "Listen to me," she hissed, her eyes wide with an urgency that was for my safety, not hers. "You have to go. Far away." She isn't bluffing. She plays bridge with a federal judge. The police commissioner is a regular at her charity galas. They will lock you up and you will never get out. Please, just go." "Why do you stay, Lily?" I asked, the question ripped from me. "You could leave. Take your son and go." The fight drained from her face, replaced by a profound, weary despair. "And go where? With what money? Leo's next surgery is in 3 months. The copay is $40,000. The specialized medication he needs costs $2,000 a month. If I leave, if I defy her, she cuts it off. She's made that very clear. A single tear traced a path through the dust on her cheek. He's 8 years old. He calls this place home. However it is. I reached out, almost touching her face, but stopped myself. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. For everything. Just go, she repeated, opening the door to a rain-swept alley. I stepped out into the deluge. The door clicked shut behind me, the sound of a vault ceiling. I stood there for a full minute, letting the rain cleanse nothing. Then I walked to the alley's mouth, where a black Mercedes-Maybach sat idling at the curb. The rear window slid down. A man with a sharp, intelligent face and weary eyes looked out. Marcus Hartman. My lawyer? The only man outside of Angola who knew I was alive. Get in, Conrad, he said. I slid into the enveloping warmth of the leather interior. As the car pulled away, I peeled off the itchy wool hat and false, scraggly beard. I pulled the tiny earpiece from my jacket and activated the receiver app on the burner phone Hartman handed me. Pamela's voice, crystal clear, filled the silent car. Unbelievable arrogance, showing up here. Did you see him, Brandon? Like a drowned sewer rat? A younger, languid male voice answered. Brandon, her son. I saw him from the stairs. Pathetic. Did he buy the whole dead fugitive bit? Hook, line, and sinker, Pamela chuckled, the sound like ice cracking. He actually thanked me for the $200. The man is broken. He has no idea the Interpol red notice was lifted 5 years ago, or that the Swiss account is still dormant and waiting. And the girl? Brandon asked, terrified. She'd be even more compliant now. She thinks she's protecting her poor, criminal daddy from prison. It's perfect. Now, about tomorrow's meeting with the developers. We need to get Lily to sign that easement agreement for the South Garden. Tell her it's for a utility upgrade. Threaten the medicine if she balks. My hand clenched around the phone. Hartman glanced at me. We have enough for a restraining order. For fraud. We can move now, Conrad. I stared at the glowing city skyscrapers blurring past the rain-streaked window. No, a restraining order is a slap. A fraud case is a complex, years-long dance. I don't want her in court. I want her in ruins. I turned to him, the persona of the broken beggar completely gone, replaced by the man who had bargained with warlords and outlasted coup attempts. Marcus, I want you to initiate Project Phoenix. Liquidate the Angolan holdings through the Liechtenstein shell. I want full financial profiles on Pamela, Brandon, their lawyer Clive Benton, and every judge, politician, or social connection they have. I want to know what they eat for breakfast and what keeps them up at night. And Lily, Leo? The boy is the key. She's using his health as a weapon. We turn that weapon around. I want a full medical team from Boston Children's reassessing Leo's case tomorrow, discreetly, access his records. I want to know the real prognosis, the real costs, and where Pamela's payments are actually going. And hire a private security detail for them invisible. If Brandon so much as looks at my daughter with malice, I want to know. Hartman was already taking notes on a tablet. And the house? I smiled, a cold, joyless expression. We're going to let them sell it. He looked up, shocked. Pamela is desperate for liquidity. She's living on credit and stolen scraps from the trust. Dividends she's been intercepting. She'd jump at a cash buyer. You will become that buyer. Make an offer through a shaman-based shell. A ridiculously generous, no questions asked cash offer. But the condition will be a clean title, with a quitclaim deed from all potential heirs, including Lily Vance. Hartman's eyes lit with understanding. She have to force Lily to sign away her inheritance to get the cash. Exactly. And the moment she does, under duress and fraud, we have her for coercion, fraud, and attempted grand larceny. We record everything. We bury her. I leaned back, the ghost of a plan solidifying into a steel trap. Start the clock, Marcus. In 72 hours, I'm done being a phantom. It's time for the reckoning. The next 36 hours were a whirlwind of silent, digital warfare. From a secure suite at the Four Seasons, I became a puppeteer. Hartman's due diligence was terrifyingly efficient. The financial picture of Pamela Vance, socialite and philanthropist, was a house of credit cards. She had mortgaged the Beacon Hill house to its limit to fund her lifestyle. The emerald necklace, on a long-term loan from a shady jeweler. Brandon, now 38, had no profession. His life was a meandering path of dues settled quietly, and gambling debts to individuals with short tempers and long memories. The medical records were the true dagger. Leo Vance, age 8, was indeed a very sick little boy, diagnosed with a complex congenital defect requiring multiple surgeries. But the Emerald Trust, the irrevocable ironclad fund I had established before my trip, had been paying every single premium, every copay, every out-of-pocket expense in full and on time, for 8 years. Zero balance, always. Pamela had intercepted the explanation of benefit statements. She had created elaborate, fraudulent invoices from a fake medical billing company, showing hundreds of thousands in patient responsibility. She presented these to Lily, then magnanimously covered them, creating the illusion of a bottomless debt and her own saintly sacrifice. She wasn't just stealing money. She was manufacturing gratitude and dependence out of thin air. Meanwhile, the audio feed from the kitchen became a real-time audio drama of domestic tyranny. I heard Brandon berate Lily for using too much dish soap. I heard Pamela critique the texture of a soufflé with the viciousness of a food critic reviewing poison. I heard the casual, offhand cruelty that was the wallpaper of their lives. But the worst was yet to come. On the second evening, the feed crackled with a new scene. Brandon was drunk, his voice a syrupy slur. Need the advance, mother? Stefano's guys are getting impatient. Not until after the gala, Pamela snapped. We need everything to look perfect. The investors from Dubai will be there. Once we secure their commitment for the waterfront project, you can have your play money, but I need it now. Brandon winced, his voice petulant. A glass slammed on the counter. Lily, more ice. I heard the soft pat of her footsteps, the clink of ice in a glass. You know, Brandon mused, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial, ugly tone. I was thinking, we're sitting on a gold mine and not mining it. What are you babbling about? Pamela sighed. The girl? She's still pretty in a used-up sort of way. Clean her up, put her in a decent dress. Some of those old fossils at the club, the ones with more money than sense. They'd pay a fortune for a taste of old Boston tragedy. The disgraced heiress, fallen on hard times. It's a niche fantasy. My blood turned to ice in my veins. I saw red. Literally, a haze of fury clouded my vision. Pamela's laugh was thoughtful, not dismissive. A vulgar idea, Brandon, but not without a certain crude logic. Let's get through the gala first. We'll need her to be presentable and obedient. For the signing with the Qatari buyers, the day after that, we can explore other revenue streams. I had to physically grip the edge of the desk to stop myself from screaming. Hartman, listening on a separate feed, looked pale. Conrad, we have criminal conspiracy now. Solicitation, we can... Not yet. The words gritted out from between my clenched teeth. The gala. That's when we make our first move. She wants her performance? We'll give her an audience she didn't expect. The Pamela Vance Foundation. Gala for Disadvantaged Youth was the social event of the season. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. The house was transformed into a glittering labyrinth of orchids, champagne towers, and the low, smug hum of wealth. My entrance was not through the front door. Dressed in the impeccable black and white of the elite catering staff, Hartman had infiltrated. I was invisible. I moved through the crowd with a tray of canapes, my eyes sharp behind non-prescription glasses, my bearing subtly altered. I saw Lily. Pamela had not dressed her as a maid tonight. That would be too obvious. Instead, she was in a simple, high-necked, dove-gray dress that was several years out of fashion and slightly too large. She was a prop, a living exhibit of Pamela's compassion. My niece. Poor dear, Pamela would whisper, steering influential guests past her. After all she's been through, I keep her close. Family is everything. I watched Lily's face. It was a mask of quiet endurance, but her eyes, Eleanor's eyes, darted around the room, always landing on the main staircase where Brandon held court. She was looking for Leo. The boy was upstairs, supposedly asleep, with a nurse who was actually one of Pamela's housekeepers. The climax of the evening's humiliation was orchestrated with malicious precision. Brandon, drunk and loud, called Lily over to refill the glass of a particularly lecherous old financier. "Lily, darling, Mr. Henderson here was just asking about the provenance of that hideous vase you broke yesterday. Tell him it was a Ming Dynasty piece worth more than he'll make in a year." Lily froze, the champagne bottle trembling in her hand. I don't... Cat got your tongue? Or are you just as dim as your father? Brandon sneered, stepping closer. The crowd around them quieted, sensing blood in the water. "Brandon, please," she whispered. "Please what?" he mocked, his voice carrying. He reached out and flicked the champagne bottle with his finger. The shock, combined with her trembling grip, was enough. The bottle slipped. It didn't shatter dramatically on the marble. It hit the Persian rug with a heavy thud, then gushed its expensive contents in a frothy river, soaking the shoes and hems of the guests nearby. A collective gasp went up. Then silence. Pamela appeared like an avenging angel of faux outrage. "Lily, you clumsy, stupid girl. Look what you've done." Brandon, playing the outraged host, stepped forward. "That's it. I've had enough of your ineptitude." And before anyone could move, his hand shot out, not an open-handed slap, but a hard, closed-fist backhand across her cheekbone. The sound was a sickening crack. Lily crumpled to the floor, not from the force alone, but from the sheer, public annihilation of her spirit. She held a hand to her face, from which blood now trickled from a split lip. No one moved to help her. The guests looked away, murmured excuses, suddenly fascinated by their own drinks. Their complicity was a louder condemnation than the blow itself. I stood 10 feet away, my tray a dead weight in my hands. The urge to drive it into Brandon's smug face was a primal scream in my skull. Every instinct demanded violence. But the plan, the meticulous, beautiful, destructive plan required patience. This atrocity was just another piece of evidence, another log on the pyre. As 2 actual staff members hurried to clean the mess, Pamela gestured dismissively. "Take her to her room." "I can't look at her." Lily was helped up and led away, a broken doll. The party's murmur resumed, a little louder now, an undercurrent of excited gossip replacing the shock. My shift ended an hour later. As I left through the service entrance, I didn't go far. I circled to the north side of the property, to the overgrown old coal chute I'd noted in the original architectural plans. It was rusty but functional. I slid down into the absolute darkness of the sub-basement. I found the wine cellar door. From the other side, I could hear soft, hopeless sobbing. I picked the simple lock with a set of tools from my pocket. She was curled in a corner on a pile of old burlap sacks, cradling her bruised face. When the door opened, she flinched violently, scrambling back like a cornered animal. "Get out," she sobbed. "Haven't you done enough? Leave me alone." "It's me," I said, keeping my voice low. The voice of the beggar from the porch. She froze, peering through the gloom. "You? Why are you here? Did she send you to—" She couldn't finish the thought. "I came to tell you something," I said, kneeling but keeping my distance. "Tomorrow they will bring you a document to sign. They will tell you it's a formality. A permit, a tax form. It will be a quitclaim deed. It signs away any legal right you have to this house, to any inheritance from your parents." She stared, confusion cutting through her misery. "What? Why?" "Because they are selling it, and they need you out of the way to do it cleanly." Panic flooded her features. "But this is my home. Leo's home. Where would we go?" "They don't care, Lily." I said her name, and it felt like a prayer. "They will threaten you. They will use Leo's medicine against you. They will say if you don't sign, they stop the payments and he suffers. You must be ready. What choice do I have?" Her whisper was a plea to the universe. "You have a choice. You can sign it. She looked at me as if I were insane. Sign it, I repeated, my voice ironclad. Do not cry. Do not plead. Look Pamela in the eye and sign your name clearly. Give them exactly what they want. Why? Why would you tell me this? Are you with them? I am with you, I said, the truth straining against the lies. The moment you sign that paper, their power over you begins to unravel. Trust me. I don't trust anyone, she wept. You don't have to trust me. Just do it. For Leo, sign the paper, and the sun will rise on a different world for him. I swear it. I left her then more shredded inside than when I had entered. The seed was planted. Now we waited for the serpent to take the bait. The next morning, Hartman's Shell Company, Ethelred Holdings, made its offer via a glossy, intimidating law firm, $8.5 million. All cash, close in 48 hours. As is condition. The only stipulation, a fully notarized quitclaim, deed from Lillian Eleanor Vance, releasing all interest due to title cloud concerns. Pamela and Brandon's jubilation was audible through the bug. It was a frenzied, greedy celebration. They immediately summoned Lily to the library. From the hotel, I watched via a hidden camera. Hartman had installed in a smoke detector 2 days prior. Lily stood before the mammoth desk, her cheek a spectacular bloom of purple and yellow. Pamela, wearing a triumphant crimson suit, presided. The time has come for you to finally contribute in a meaningful way. Lily, Pamela began, her voice oozing false sympathy. We have a chance to solve all our financial troubles. A buyer for the house. This will pay for Leo's treatments for years to come. But they need this little form signed. She slid the document across the desk. Brandon loomed behind Lily, a physical barrier. Lily picked it up. She read it slowly, her lips moving. I saw the moment she understood. Her hands began to shake. This says I give up everything. My home, my parents' legacy. It's just legal jargon, sweetheart, Brandon said, his voice dangerously soft. It just says you agree with the sale for the family's benefit. I don't agree, Lily said, her voice small but clear. This is my son's home. My father bought this house for my mother. Pamela's mask slipped. Your father was a thief who lost this house. I saved it. You will sign this, you ungrateful little wretch, or so help me God. Or what, Aunt Pamela? Lily asked, a spark of her mother's defiance flickering. You'll throw us out? Stop the medicine? Exactly, Brandon hissed. He pulled out his phone, dialed loudly on speaker, and held it up. After 2 rings, a voice answered. Mercy Hospital Pediatrics, how may I direct your call? Lily went white. See? Brandon whispered, his face close to hers. 1 word from me. 1 word. Discontinue all non-emergency care for patient. Leo Vance due to insurance lapse. How long do you think he has when the machines stop, Lily? An hour? A day? Sign the paper. His life for your pride. The fight drained out of her. Her shoulders, which had squared for a moment, collapsed. She looked at the phone, then at the pen in Pamela's outstretched hand. I'm sorry, Daddy, she whispered to the air and signed. Pamela snatched the paper, beaming. Brandon ended the fake call. There, was that so hard? Now back to your room. We have lawyers to meet. The trap was sprung. The meeting was at the offices of Clive Benton, the family lawyer who had facilitated the fraud. A conference room on the 40th floor, all glass and arrogance. Pamela, Brandon, and Clive were there, sipping coffee. Lily sat in a corner chair, a ghost herself. They were waiting for Mr. Blackwood of Ethelred Holdings. I entered at precisely noon. But not as Mr. Blackwood. I entered as Conrad Vance. I wore a Savile Row suit the color of charcoal smoke. My shoes were polished Oxfords. My face was clean-shaven, my silver hair cut and styled. I carried a simple titanium briefcase. The transformation from the beggar was total. For 3 heartbeats there was only confusion. They saw an older, powerful gentleman who seemed vaguely familiar. Then Pamela's coffee cup rattled in its saucer. Her face paled beneath her makeup. Brandon shot to his feet. What the hell is this? How did you get in here? Security. Clive Benton, a weasel of a man, squinted. Conrad, Is that? Legally, you are deceased. This is a private. I am the principal of Ethelred Holdings, I said, my voice calm, filling the room. I set the briefcase on the table with a definitive click. And I am here to conclude the purchase of my own property. The silence was absolute, broken only by Lily's sharp intake of breath. You're insane, Brandon spat. You're a broke bum. You signed a confession. This is a scam. I opened the briefcase. I didn't pull out money. I pulled out a tablet. With a tap, I activated a series of files. Let's begin with the legalities. Clive, as recorded in your office yesterday when you thought you were advising your client, Pamela? I tapped the screen. Clive's own voice, slightly tinny, filled the room. The death certificate was the tricky part. Pam, but the coroner owed me a favor. The digital registry was the real hurdle. Had to hire a rather gifted forger in Minsk to get past the Swiss probate court verification. Once that was accepted, the asset transfer from the deceased Conrad Vance to you, the rightful heir under the forged will, was just paperwork. Clive looked as if he were about to be sick. I switched files. Medical fraud. Pamela Vance, you intercepted statements from the Emerald Trust proving a zero balance for Leo Vance's care. You then created fraudulent invoices from a shell corporation, Medibill Solutions, to fabricate a debt of over $1.2 million, which you used to coercively bind Lily Vance to indentured servitude. I displayed the real OBS next to the fake invoices. Pamela's gripping the table, her knuckles white. Lies, all of it. Financial fraud, I continued mercilessly. You have mortgaged, liened, and borrowed against the trust-owned assets to the tune of $3 million. You have been intercepting quarterly dividend payments from the Vance family, trusts for 15 years, siphoning them into offshore accounts in the Bahamas. I showed the wire transfer trails. And finally, criminal conspiracy and solicitation. My voice dropped, becoming deadly quiet. I played the audio from the kitchen bug. Brandon's voice, clean her up, put her in a decent dress. Some of those old fossils, they'd pay a fortune. Pamela's voice, a vulgar idea, but not without a certain crude logic. After the gala, we can explore other revenue streams. The color drained from Brandon's face. Lily made a small choke sound in the corner. I looked at my daughter. The quitclaim deed you signed yesterday under threat of your son's death is legally void. It was obtained under duress and as part of a larger criminal fraud. You own that house, Lily. You always have. I turned back to the three frozen figures. Ethelred Holdings is dissolving. The offer is rescinded. You have nothing to sell. At that moment, the conference room door opened. Hartman entered, followed by 4 people. 2 were FBI agents in windbreakers. 2 were Suffolk County prosecutors. Pamela Vance, Brandon Vance, Clive Benton, the lead agent said. You are under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, interstate transportation of stolen property, coercion, forgery, and solicitation. You have the right to remain silent. As the agents moved in, Brandon snapped. With a strangled roar, he vaulted the table, hands reaching for my throat. He didn't make it halfway. Marcus, my security lead who had entered with Hartman, moved with blurring speed. A deflection, a twist, and Brandon was on the floor, arm locked behind his back, screaming as his shoulder was stressed to its limit. Don't, Marcus said calmly. Pamela was shrieking, a wordless animal sound of rage and denial as they cuffed her. Clive was sobbing, begging for a deal. They were led away, their reign of terror ending not with a bang, but with the perfunctory click of handcuffs and the drone of their Miranda rights. And then it was just Hartman, Marcus, Lily, and me in the suddenly vast, silent room. Lily was standing now, trembling like a leaf in a gale. She looked from the door to me, her mind unable to process the tectonic shift in her reality. The boy, Leo, she stammered, is under the care of the top pediatric cardiology team at Boston Children's. As of this morning, Hartman said gently, all treatments are fully covered. They are preparing a comprehensive new treatment plan. He's asking for his mother. She took a step toward me, then stopped. The years of lies were a wall between us. "Who are you?" she asked, not of the tycoon, but of the man. "I am your father," I said, my voice finally cracking under the weight of it all. "I was never a thief. I was captured, imprisoned, because I refused to hand my mines over to a corrupt regime. I spent 15 years fighting to get back to you, every day. And I am so sorry that I failed to protect you from the wolves I let into our home. The dam broke. She didn't run into my arms. She collapsed. The strength that had held her upright through abuse, terror, and the burden of her son's survival simply evaporated. I caught her as she fell, sinking to the floor with her, holding her as she wept great, heaving sobs that seemed to tear from the core of her being. I held my daughter, and for the first time in 15 years I was home. Epilogue: The sunrise. 1 week later. The Beacon Hill mansion was empty of its ghosts. Pamela's gaudy possessions were in evidence lockers. The staff hired by me were quietly rehabilitating the space. Leo's new treatment plan was ambitious and hopeful. The head of the department himself had said, "With the right care, this young man can live a full, active life." The words were a balm on Lily's soul. We stood on the private tarmac of Logan Airport, beside a jet configured as a flying hospital suite. Leo, a small pale boy with my stubborn chin and his mother's brilliant eyes, was already on board with a nurse, fascinated by the screens and buttons. Lily, dressed in simple, comfortable clothes she had chosen herself, looked at the city skyline, then at me. "We'll be back in 6 weeks after the first phase in Zurich," she said. It wasn't a question. "The house will be waiting. Your house, however you want it to be." She was quiet for a moment. I think I want to sell it. Use the money to start a foundation. For children like Leo, for families who get lost in the system." She looked at me. "A real legacy?" My heart swelled with a pride so fierce it hurt. "That sounds perfect." She took a deep breath, the cool morning air filling her lungs with freedom. "You'll be here when we get back?" "I will be wherever you need me to be," I said. "Always." She hugged me then, a real, strong, unafraid embrace. "Thank you, Daddy, for coming home." I watched her climb the steps into the jet. The door sealed. The engines whined to life. Hartman stood beside me. "The arraignment is tomorrow. They're facing 25 to life. They'll spend their last dime on legal fees and end up with nothing. The IRS is seizing everything." I nodded, watching the jet begin to taxi. "Good." The plane accelerated down the runway and lifted into the dawn sky, climbing toward the sun that was finally rising on their new life. The vengeance was complete. It was not sweet. It was necessary. It was the brutal, careful excision of a cancer that had consumed my family. The scars would remain on Lily's cheek, on Leo's chest, on my soul. But now they could finally begin to heal. If you were moved by this story of resilience, patience, and ultimate justice, if you believe that even the darkest nights end with a dawn, then show your support. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your engagement helps us bring more powerful, thought-provoking narratives to light. This is Wines of Thought, reminding you that the deepest strength is often forged in the longest silence. Thank you for watching.